The Titanic was a ship traveling from Southampton, England, on its voyage to New York City. It was said to be one of the most luxurious ships of its time until it crashed into an iceberg in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It killed many people and is one of the most tragic events to this day. Although the captain, Edward Smith, was absolutely sure nothing would happen to the passengers or ship, he was wrong. The builders had to compromise on the use of faulty rivets in order to complete the job on time. If the ship was built using stronger rivets, it is likely that the Titanic would have survived the crash or been able to stay afloat long enough for the rescue. Apparently, the builders of the ship did not use close to the amount of rivets needed for the ship to withstand the iceberg. The ship needed at least 3 million rivets heated to perfection, with a perfect amount of hammer strikes on each and every one. The whole of the ship was made from steel rivets, but the stern and bow were made with iron rivets. Since iron is weaker than steel, the construction of the boat could have been improved if it were made with steel rivets throughout the ship. Since the ship was built using iron rivets, it was much less sturdy than it could have been. The iron rivets crumble easily. The Titanic was built so that if any combination of 4 or under compartments had sank or gone underwater, the ship could survive. But since the Titanic had such a bad collision with the iceberg, 5 compartments had gone underwater. The builders were so concerned about the Titanic being luxurious for the passengers that they never thought the ship would crash. Even if it did crash, the crew and builders never thought it was possible for over 4 compartments to go underwater. A woman remembers getting on the lifeboats thinking where her husband was. She knew there was little chance of survival, but she wanted her last days to be spent with her husband. When the boat came to pick up her and her others on the lifeboats up, she knew her husband wasn't there after the last of the lifeboats arrived. She was heartbroken. A woman described the chaotic scene of lifeboats in the Carpathia, the ship that picked them up. She described how ecstatic everyone was, but she was without her children. And she realized that her children did not make it. Elizabeth Schutz was one of the people aboard the Titanic and was 40 years old at the time. She was sent to the sun deck immediately when the ship hit the iceberg, and she said it took at least 3 hours for the ship to sink completely, which is very short. She describes the chaotic scene on the lifeboat shortly before they were rescued by the Carpathia. Our men knew nothing about the position of the stars, hardly how to pull together. 2 oars were soon overboard. The men's hands were too cold to hold on. Then across the water swept that awful wail, the cry of those drowning people. In my ears I heard, "She's gone, lads. Row like hecker, we'll get the devil of a swell." She was one of the ones who reflected on the needless luxuries about the Titanic and how they had not been prioritized over the lifeboats and other safety features. She has also said that she would have liked to see them more prepared for the safety in lifeboats rather than it being so luxurious for the passengers. Eva Hart was 7 years old when she and her parents had been put into lifeboats after the tragic collision. She explains how, quote, "People expect her to be afraid of planes, boats, even cars. I'm not scared at all. I got over it a long time ago. Where would I be in life if I was afraid to practically leave my town?" The Titanic was one of the most tragic events of this day. The builders and crew did not use enough rivets and were too concerned about the luxuriousness to pay attention to the safety in lifeboats of the passengers.